Last summer, I found solace in my local community garden after losing my job. I wanted to make friends and find peace in the dirt. I thought gardening would be the right outlet for my loneliness. And I guess I was right, because there was something calming about digging my hands into the soil. I never stopped thinking about it. One afternoon, while I was weeding my plot, I stumbled upon some odd drawings buried under a layer of mulch. They were strange, depicting garden creatures with warped features. At first, I brushed it off as a kid's imagination. I chuckled, thinking how creative children must be. But over the weeks, those drawings became more frequent. It was as if they were watching me, that I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed. I heard whispers while I tended my petunias. At first, I thought I was just imagining things. Maybe it was the wind, or maybe my mind was playing tricks because I was lonely. But I felt uneasy. One night, after the sun sank, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. Shadows flitted between the plots. My heart raced as I tried to rationalize what I saw. Maybe it was just a trick of the light. But the next day, I found more drawings. Each one more elaborate and bizarre than the last. The creatures twisted, with glowing eyes among the tangled vines, revealing horrifying events that had yet to pass. Then one evening, I went to the garden later than usual. The night was black, and the moonlight barely touched the thick leaves. I could swear those whispers were louder. They felt urgent. I hadn't come there expecting to feel afraid. I needed to calm down, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. I stood frozen, gazing at my tomato plants. Then I blinked, and suddenly I wasn't alone. A distorted figure, taller and more grotesque than anything I had seen, stood between the rows of pepper plants. It felt as if it was waiting for me. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream. "What do you want?" I finally managed to choke out. My legs trembled, yet I couldn't move. The figure didn't respond. I couldn't tell what was human about it, if anything. Right when I thought I heard a name, I turned, glancing wildly around the garden. I was desperate for something real. Just then, a chill ran down my spine. I was utterly alone again, grappling with my own dread and trying to understand this uncanny mystery. Now, almost a year later, I wonder who the artist behind those drawings really was. Were they innocent expressions of a child's imagination, or something far more sinister? I wish I knew. The garden still draws me, but now it feels different. I keep going back, but I know I'll never shake that feeling. Something is out there, waiting. The next day, I hesitated before stepping into the garden. I couldn't shake the events of the past year. I prepared myself for whispers and shadows, but I still needed to go. I wanted to reclaim some feeling of normalcy, even if it was an illusion. So, I costumed up with gloves and a wide-brimmed hat, as if they could shield me from what I had experienced. As I entered, the garden appeared still, bathed in gentle sunlight. But the air felt thick, almost alive. I moved towards my plot, my garden tools clinking softly in my bag, the familiar sounds almost comforting. I tried to focus on weeding and pruning, but felt an overwhelming heaviness resting on my shoulders. Each time I glanced around, I half expected to see that dark figure lurking. After a while, I decided to explore the nearby plots. I needed a distraction. I walked past rows of kale and squash. The bright colors suddenly felt strange against my mounting anxiety. Then I spotted something near a cluster of overgrown bushes. That's when I saw it. A mural painted on the wooden fence enclosing one of the plots, obscured by ivy. The colors were vivid but unsettling images of creatures much like those in the drawings I had uncovered long ago. Their eyes were glaring, and their mouths twisted in grins that unsettled me deeply. Each beast seemed to mean something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My heart pounded as I traced the outline of a creature, a rabbit with elongated limbs and large, empty eyes. I felt as if it was staring directly at me. I stumbled back, nearly tripping on a tangle of roots. What was this? Who created it? It felt intentional, as if someone wanted me to see it. Suddenly, I heard the whispers again, but they were sharper, like a chorus of voices building to a crescendo. Panic surged within me. I turned to run back to the safety of my plot when a rustling sound stopped me dead in my tracks. Out of the bushes, a small animal darted out, a wild rabbit, maybe, but when it looked back at me, those empty eyes mirrored the painted creature's. My breath hitched as a wave of confusion washed over me. The whispers had quieted, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like a countdown. I hurried back to my plot, my mind racing. I had to understand. I needed answers. Pulling out my phone, I began frantically snapping pictures of the mural. I knew I would return later to unravel this mystery. But as I turned to leave, the weight of the moment pressed down on me. Then, a loud crash echoed from somewhere deeper in the garden. It sent a jolt through my veins. I glanced over my shoulder, my heart racing again. My instincts screamed that I should get out. And yet, that whispering voice, barely audible, urged me to stay. I stood frozen. Someone, or something, awaited in the shadows once more. I took a shaky step back as fear bore down heavily on me. What was going on in this garden? And then I sensed that something was waiting just beyond the ivy. The tension in the air was suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest, each thud a reminder of how alone I felt. I could still hear the echoes of the crash in my ears, urging me to flee, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The ivy rustled again, and I instinctively turned, ready to bolt at the slightest hint of danger. Then, I saw it. A figure, half obscured by the gnarled vines, staring back at me. It was a person, their face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat much like mine. The garden felt suddenly colder. I couldn't decipher their expression, but I felt the weight of their gaze pressing against me. "Hello." I managed to croak out, my voice barely more than a whisper. The figure didn't respond. Instead, they took a deliberate step forward, the crunch of gravel breaking the silence. My instincts screamed at me to run, but a morbid curiosity kept me rooted in place. Are you okay?" I asked, but the words fell flat. Finally, they lifted their heads slightly. The brim of the hat tilted back enough for me to catch a glimpse of their eyes, dark and hollow. Just like the creatures in the mural. "Did you see it?" The voice was low and raspy, sending chills down my spine. "See what?" I replied, my heart racing. "The truth," they said, their lips curling into a shadow of a smile. "It's all here." They gestured vaguely toward the garden. Before I could respond, the figure turned and walked deeper into the foliage, vanishing just as quickly as they appeared. I knew I should feel relieved, but I didn't. Something about their presence lingered, an echo of unease that kept me from leaving. That I took a tentative step forward, following in their wake, my instincts battling with my desire for answers. I wandered through the garden, searching for anything that would explain what I'd just witnessed. The rows felt distorted now, vines twisting unnaturally where they had been straightforward before. Could they truly hide something more? Suddenly, I noticed a path that I had never seen before, winding through the dense underbrush. Curiosity pulled me toward it, despite every warning bell ringing in my head. I hesitated again. The tall grass swayed, as if beckoning me closer. The deeper I went, the more the atmosphere changed. The air thickened, buzzing with that same unsettling energy. I caught sight of more murals, hidden behind layers of foliage, each one more disturbing than the last. There were creatures in torment, grotesque forms entangled in vines, their faces twisted in eternal screams. I pulled out my phone again, snapping desperate pictures. I had to document this, to make sense of it all. And then I saw something in the corner of my eye, a glimpse of movement. It was quick, darting just beyond the edge of my vision. "Hello." I called out again, biting my lip as the silence enveloped me once more. Then, as if responding, I heard a soft rustling followed by a guttural growl. My stomach dropped. I smiled nervously at myself, wishing I could laugh off my fear. But it was too late for that. I dashed back toward the main path, the pulse of fear beating in my ears. As I stumbled into the garden's opening, I heard laughter, a chilling, discordant sound that sent shivers coursing through me. I looked back, but there was only the empty garden filled with sinister colors and hidden truths that I never did find out how the garden transformed that summer. But I knew one thing: secrets lived under those vines, and they would not be buried easily. I woke up the next morning with a sense of dread wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. The memories from the garden haunted my thoughts, those dark eyes, the gut-wrenching growl, and the laughter that echoed in the silence. I couldn't just leave it as it was. I had to go back. After breakfast, I gathered myself. I slipped on my boots and headed for the entrance to the garden. As I stepped through the archway, the weight of the vines and shadows settled heavily on my shoulders. I had a flashlight this time, just in case. I would not be caught unprepared again. The air felt different. It was thick, almost electric, as if the garden was anticipating my return. Every step deeper into the foliage made my heart race. I needed answers, no matter how terrifying they might be. That I followed the same path I had encountered yesterday. The murals still adorned the walls of the garden, but today they felt more alive, pulsating with an energy I couldn't explain. As I passed them, I felt a disquieting sense of familiarity, as though they were trying to speak to me. Then, I noticed something new. One of the murals had been changed. Where there had been a cluster of screaming figures, now stood a single figure, taller and more defined. I squinted. It looked like the figure I had seen before, the one in the hat. But this one had no face, just a silhouette against a backdrop of chaos. "Who are you?" I whispered, both terrified and entranced. As I backed away, my heel caught on a twisted root, and I fell hard, the flashlight skidding from my hand. The beam flickered, dancing around the ground as I scrambled to retrieve it, but it went dark. "Not again," I muttered, panic setting in. I got to my feet, heart racing as I felt around for the light. Just then, I heard a soft giggle nearby. It sent chills down my spine. "Who's there?" I shouted, anxiety tightening my throat. "Don't be afraid." The voice was feminine, almost playful, but it dripped with an unsettling edge. "I only want to show you." Before I could respond, the flashlight flickered back to life. In the beam, I saw a girl standing a few feet away. She had wild hair and her clothes were tattered. Her smile was wide, but her eyes contained an emptiness that made it hard to breathe. "Do you want to see the truth?" she asked, her voice hauntingly sweet. That I should have turned and sprinted back, but the question hung in the air like a spell. I hesitated. "What truth?" With a giggle, she pointed deeper into the garden, toward an area where the light didn't reach. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet betrayed me. I couldn't turn away. "Come with me," she crooned, stepping forward. I could feel the pull of her twisted aura, inviting yet terrifying. The laughter returned, the same chilling sound I'd heard before. It echoed through the garden, wrapping around me like the vines. I didn't have time to think. I turned and bolted toward the entrance. The girl's laughter followed me, echoing off the walls as shadows danced behind me. Just as I reached the edge of the garden, I felt a sharp tug at my sleeve. I turned to look, but there was nothing there, only open air. I gasped, panic flooding my senses. What had I uncovered? I realized with dread that I wasn't done yet. Whatever was happening in this garden, it was far from over. And I was going to have to find out what lay hidden within its depths. The tension in my chest didn't fade. I stumbled onto the path, desperate for fresh air and daylight. The garden loomed behind me, an unseen beast waiting to reclaim its prey. I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back as I quickened my pace. Once outside, I stopped to breathe. But my thoughts were still tangled in the garden's web. That girl, the way she had looked at me, haunted my mind. I had to gather more information. I couldn't let fear guide my actions. I had to be methodical. I returned home, my hands shaking as I rifled through my things. My old sketchbook sat on the desk, collecting dust. I flipped it open, and sketches of the garden and its grotesque beauty stared back at me. One particular drawing caught my eye. It was of the mural, but I decaptured something different. It was the silhouette, but with more details. In my sleep, I had traced the way the figure stood, the chaos swirling around it. Then I remembered the last line I had written in the margins. It felt like a warning: this place isn't what it seems. I took a deep breath and grabbed my phone. I needed to know if anyone else had seen the girl or the figures I had sketched. There were no answers in my small circle, but I thought of Miss Harper, the elderly woman who tended the flowers at the edge of the garden. She had lived in the area for decades. Maybe I could ask her if she knew anything. As evening approached, I made my way to her house. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the street. When I arrived, I knocked on the door, hoping she would be home. A shuffling sound came from inside, and the door creaked open. "Ah, dear. It's you," Miss Harper said, squinting in the fading light. Her eyes were dim, but they held a spark of recognition. "What brings you here?" "I need to ask you about the garden," I started, anxious. "Have you ever seen strange things or people there? Like a girl?" Her expression changed. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You shouldn't be going there. The garden has its secrets." "I can handle it," I insisted, though doubt seeped into my voice. A flicker of concern crossed her face. "There are things that watch," she said slowly. "And if you're not careful, they might take an interest in you." That sent a chill down my spine. I was already tangled in its web. "What do you mean?" But just then, a sharp cry pierced the air, echoing from the direction of the garden. It interrupted our conversation, sending both of us glancing toward the fading light. "What was that?" I asked, breath catching in my throat. Ms. Harper's pale face went even whiter. "You must leave. Now." I hesitated, heart racing again. I realized I wasn't done. That call had echoed with fear. Someone was in the garden, and I needed to discover what or who they were. I stood frozen for a moment, caught between fear and urgency. "I can't just leave," I stammered. "Someone might need help." Ms. Harper shook her head, her voice trembling. "You'll only expose yourself to danger. The garden isn't safe at night. You must trust me." But I could already feel the pull of the garden calling to me. I took a step back, then turned and sprinted down the path leading away from her house. My feet carried me despite my fear, racing towards the source of that cry. Each stride felt heavy, as if the darkening shadows wanted to pull me back. When I reached the edge of the garden, I slowed down and peered through the iron gate. The twisted trees were dark shapes against the now starlit sky, but something stirred among the tangled vines. There had to be someone in there, or maybe something. "Hello?" I called out, voice shaking. I took a step inside. The air grew thicker, stifling. I had crossed the boundary, and dread gripped my heart. The last rays of sunlight had disappeared, leaving only the eerie glow of moonlight filtering through the leaves. I pulled out my phone, using its weak flashlight to scan the area. Shadows danced around me, shifting as I moved. Every rustle of leaves made me flinch. As I ventured further, I stumbled upon a clearing. The moonlight illuminated a small figure crumpled on the ground. My pulse quickened. "Hey! Are you all right?" The figure shifted, and I caught a glimpse of long, dark hair. It was her, the girl from the garden. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. I approached cautiously, still clutching my phone. "What happened? How did you get here?" "Run," she said, suddenly glancing over her shoulder. A look of panic crossed her face. "You need to get out." Before I could ask what she meant, the shadows shifted again, morphing into something darker and more threatening. A low growl echoed around us, and my heart dropped at the sound. This wasn't just a girl lost in the garden, there were things lurking here. "Who is there?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. The girl shook her head, standing slowly, her eyes wide with fear. "They're here," she whispered, trembling. "We need to go now." I stepped closer, ready to pull her away, but something cold brushed past me. A figure emerged, cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing like embers. It pointed towards us, and heat radiated from its form, curling around me like a noose that I felt the girl tug at my arm, panic in her voice. "Run! Please!" That's when I saw it a flash behind the figure, a set of shadows twisting together, forming shapes that looked all too familiar. The murky outlines of the figures from my sketches. I stumbled back, fear rooting me in place. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The girl pulled harder, urgency igniting in her eyes. "We don't have time. Trust me." In that moment, clarity washed over me. I had to choose. Stay and confront the nightmares of my own creation or follow her deeper into the darkness. I took a deep breath, and just as the shadows writhed forward, I dashed into the night with her, my heart racing against the chaos around us. The moon hung high above us as we sprinted deeper into the garden, branches whispering secrets in the breeze. I glanced back, but the shadowy figure didn't pursue us. It stayed behind, watching, waiting. Fear. "Where are we going?" I gasped, trying to keep pace with her. The ground was uneven, roots and stones threatening to trip me. "To the hidden path," the girl replied breathlessly, her dark hair flowing like a shadow in the moonlight. "It's safer there." As we ran, instincts kicked in. I felt the urge to ask her 100 questions, to know who she was and what had happened in this cursed place. But now wasn't the time. I just had to trust her. We rounded a corner and came upon a thicket of bushes. She pushed them aside, revealing a narrow path that wound between the trees. The air was cooler here, and a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "How do you know about this place?" "I've been trapped here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They don't let me leave." "None of us can." "Who is they?" I asked, panic creeping back. "What are we up against?" She stopped suddenly, turning to me with eyes wide and glistening. "The shadows come to collect. We can't let them take you too." Before I could process her words, a chill swept over the path, snuffing out the warmth of my breath. The distant growl resonated again, louder this time, like a warning echoing in the dark. I could feel something following us, an energy that chilled my bones and filled my mind with dread. "Keep moving," the girl urged, pulling me along. "This way." We pressed on, ducking under branches and sidestepping roots. Each step felt like a race against time. Glancing back, I saw fleeting glimpses of dark figures blending into the shadows. Shapes twisted and morphed into monstrous reflections of my own fears. "I can't keep running like this," I shouted, my chest tightening with panic. "What do we do?" "We need to find the elder tree," she panted. "It's our only hope." "The elder tree?" I blinked, desperately trying to recall if I had ever seen anything like that in my sketches. "It can protect us. Just a little farther." The growling intensified, a chorus of low, menacing sounds that sent a wave of terror through me. It felt like they were gaining ground, inching closer. I didn't want to believe that I had led us right into the heart of this nightmare, but my racing heart betrayed me. Then my foot caught on something, and I fell hard to the ground, landing with a painful thud. Panic stole my breath for a heartbeat. I looked up to see the girl's figure blurred against the moonlight. She was reaching for me, but the shadows surged, swirling around us like a dark tide. I scrambled to my feet, but the path ahead darkened abruptly. That's when I saw it, just beyond the shadows a flicker of light, dancing like a beacon. "Over there!" I shouted, forcing my feet to move again. "We had to reach that light," the girl nodded. "That might be the tree." As we dashed forward, a horrid screech erupted from the darkness, echoing off the trees. It stopped me dead in my tracks, and my breath caught in my throat as I turned to face it. It was drawing closer, a monstrous silhouette emerging from the shadows. I froze, and within that terrifying moment, I realized we might not make it out after all. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't find my voice. Now! The girl shouted, pulling me with her towards the light. The growl turned into a roar, and I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs, but we were almost there. Just a little farther then everything went dark. I woke up in a daze. Soft light poured in around me, flickering warmly. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. But the pressure in my chest confirmed I was very much awake. I blinked, trying to focus, and realized I was lying on the ground, propped against something. "Are you okay?" a familiar voice asked. I turned my head and saw the girl kneeling beside me, concern etched on her face. "What happened?" I croaked. My throat felt dry and scratchy. "We reached the elder tree, but you passed out," she replied. "The shadows almost got us." I twisted around to see the tree towering above us. It was massive and gnarled, with roots that spiraled out like tentacles. Its leaves shimmered in the sunlight, a stark contrast to the darkness we had fled. I wasn't sure if I was relieved or terrified. "Is this where we're safe?" I asked, feeling a tinge of hope. "For now," she said, her voice low. "But we can't stay here for long. They'll come for us again." I got to my feet, still shaking. "What are those things?" "The shadows. They take people like us. They feed on fear and darkness." She looked away, her gaze drifting to the edges of the grove. "And they won't stop until they get what they want." Panic flared in my chest again. "What do you mean, people like us? Are you stuck here too?" Her eyes softened but her expression remained serious. "Yes. For longer than I can remember." I felt the weight of her words settle over me. I had stumbled into something much larger, something that seemed impossible. "How do we break free?" "I don't know. But I think the elder tree holds answers," she said, stepping closer to the trunk. "If we can reach its core, maybe we can find a way to escape." Without thinking, I followed her toward the tree. My heart raced as I moved against the ancient bark, rough under my fingertips. "What do we do?" She knelt beside a hollow at the base, the light shimmering from within. "We need to draw the symbols," she said urgently. "They represent protection. They can create a barrier." Symbols. My mind raced back to the sketches I'd often seen in my dreams. "I've seen those. I can help." "Good. We have to hurry." I knelt beside her, focusing on the hollow. As I began to draw the first symbol in the dirt, it glowed faintly. I was surprised at how natural it felt, as if the lines were already imprinted in my mind. But before I could finish, the ground trembled beneath us. The light dimmed, and those dreadful growls returned, echoing around the grove. The shadows were coming. Faster. I shouted, my hands racing as I etched the next symbol. The girl was beside me, her hands moving in synchronization. We both sensed the urgency as the air grew heavy with darkness. "Hold on!" she cried out. "Just a little more." As we finished the last symbol, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. The tree trembled, and we watched in awe as a barrier of light expanded, encasing us within its glow. The growls faded to whispers, but I knew it wouldn't last. It worked, I exhaled, feeling relief wash over me, but the girl's expression darkened. "This won't hold them for long. We need to find a way to break free from their hold entirely." I nodded, our bond forged in fear and uncertainty. I had no clue what came next, but I knew we wouldn't be standing among the shadows forever. Then, just beyond the edge of the light, I saw a pair of glowing eyes watching us. They struck fear deep within my chest. Something told me our journey was just beginning. I stared at those glowing eyes, my breath hitching in my throat. They were unlike anything I'd seen, shimmering like stars but filled with malice. They blinked slowly, as if judging our weakness. I turned to the girl beside me, panic evident in her wide eyes. "What do we do?" I whispered, my voice barely above a tremor. "We hold on," she replied, but her voice quivered too. "The barrier will keep us safe for now, but we need to figure out the core of the tree before they breach it." I could feel the pulse of the tree, a low vibration that seemed to sync with my heartbeat. It felt powerful, but the shadows were persistent. I could hear their whispers creeping around the edges of our light, taunting us that I peered towards the tree's trunk, searching for any indication of where we could find this core she mentioned. "Do you see anything?" I asked. She shook her head, scanning the bark for some clue. "It should be somewhere near the center, but it's hidden." As we continued searching, a cold wind swept through the grove. It sent shivers down my spine and the shadows around us grew more restless. I could feel their presence pressing against the barrier we had created. "That's it," I exclaimed, pointing to a spot slightly higher on the trunk. A faint outline glimmered in the bark. A small, circular opening. "Maybe it's through there." She shifted closer to me, eyes wide. "We need to get to it. If we can access the core, it might give us enough power to break free." I took a deep breath and moved closer to the tree, still feeling the chill in the air. Each inch was a challenge, the whispers around us growing fiercer, more demanding. The eyes I'd seen earlier weren't just watching, they were waiting for our moment of vulnerability. "Keep drawing," I urged her, and she nodded, moving to sketch another protective symbol in the dirt that I reached out toward the opening, my fingers trembling. As I touched the bark, I felt a jolt of energy surge through my hand. It was warm, almost alive. My heart raced. Was this part of the core? I pushed aside my fear and focused, trying to sense what lay beyond this entry. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, taking shape with menacing forms. My stomach dropped as the whispers turned to screams. I could see dark figures beginning to claw at the edge of our light, desperate to get in. "Stay close," I yelled at the girl while I pressed my palm against the tree again, feeling the vibration stronger now. I needed to help us, to protect us. I focused my will on the opening, urging it to reveal what was hidden inside, then everything shifted. The glow intensified and the opening began to widen, revealing a glimmering interior. It was breathtaking. A swirl of light and energy beckoned me forward. But as I felt the surge of hope, the shadows howled in fury, their eyes burning brighter than before. "Now!" I shouted, pulling her toward the opening. "We have to get inside." But as we moved, something dark lunged at us. It shattered against our barrier, but I could feel the cracks forming, the pressure building. "Go!" she screamed, pushing me forward into the opening. I stumbled, caught off guard. But as I crossed the threshold, a powerful force pulled me in like a wave crashing over me. I was enveloped in warmth, but I could still hear the chaos of the shadows behind us. Then I lost my footing, falling deep into the light. The last thing I saw was her outstretched hand reaching for me, before everything went dark. I awoke on soft grass, the warmth of sunlight brushing against my skin. I blinked against the brightness, the light feeling overwhelming compared to the shadows I'd just escaped. For a moment, disoriented, I couldn't place where I was. The air smelled sweet, filled with hints of flowers and the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil. I sat up slowly, my heart still racing with remnants of fear. As I looked around, I realized I was back in the garden, but it felt different, lighter, almost serene. Vines adorned the trellises as usual, but where once they had loomed like dark sentinels, they now seemed to frame a paradise. Flowers bloomed vibrantly, their petals a kaleidoscope of colors. I could almost hear the buzzing of insects, their rhythms creating a soothing melody, but where was the girl? The haunting laughter. The shadows that had threatened to swallow us whole. That terrifying figure I had glimpsed before. Sweeping my eyes around the garden, I searched for any sign of her, but there was nothing, only tranquil silence. I stood up cautiously, brushing bits of dirt from my clothes. I felt a twinge of panic, an unsettling hollowness where the connection to the girl once filled me. Had I imagined it all? The shadows, the girl, the swirling chaos of darkness. It felt impossible to believe, yet the memories clung to me, vivid and undeniable. That I walked towards my plot, the familiar rows of plants seeming almost welcoming. But as I stepped closer, I spotted something half buried under the earth, a crude drawing etched into a piece of bark. As I knelt closer to inspect it, chills crept up my spine. The figure was familiar, a twisted version of the girl, her expression caught in a grimace. It was surrounded by the same uncanny creatures I'd discovered before, their outlines stark and grotesque against the smooth surface of the bark. "Did you see it?" I murmured, remembering her raspy voice. The words hung in the air like a wisp of smoke, bringing back fragments of terror. Was she still trapped in the garden? Or had we truly escaped? Was she waiting in the hidden places I had yet to find? Steeling myself, I stood straight, my gaze darting through the garden. I needed to face whatever loomed behind the vibrant facade. I turned towards the path leading deeper into the garden, the sun warming my back. I walked, tracing the sounds of rustling leaves and wondering if shadows still lurked just beyond my sight. I could still hear faint whispers echoing from memory, promising secrets lurking beneath the surface. That I ventured deeper, pushing vines aside, compelled to find out more. I could feel the garden alive around me, its energy pulsating like a heartbeat. The shadows might have retreated, yet their whispers still encircled my mind, a foreboding reminder that the peace I felt was fragile, masking layers of darkness beneath. That I reached the place where I had encountered the girl. The murals still pulsed with color, but despite their beauty, I sensed an undercurrent of dread that couldn't be dismissed. I knelt before one of the painted figures, its hollow eyes stared back unblinking. I felt an urge to understand this world, to unravel the connection between the anguish I had witnessed and the opportunities that lay ahead. As I took a step back, my heart raced at the thought of escaping the cursed hold of fear. The garden was both sanctuary and prison, and now I understood it held a power I had barely begun to comprehend. I knew I had to confront the lurking shadows and face whatever waited in the dark spaces I had yet to navigate. Even surrounded by blooming beauty, I couldn't shake the feeling that the garden was still watching me, full of secrets waiting to reveal themselves. I had escaped for now, but I would always wonder if I would return when the darkness called me again. And deep down, an uneasy question thrummed in my mind: had I truly escaped, or was this just another layer, another illusion waiting to peel back to reveal the nightmares below?